Good day and welcome to Political Spectrum. It's nice to have you join us on this episode as usual. On Political Spectrum, we help you make sense of major developments and events in our nation's polity and political economy. Political Spectrum comes to you live from Uyo, the state's capital. And I remain yours, sincerely, Onwese Ehinoma Olusegun. Now, our conversations continue on everyday political and economic developments in Nigeria. Well, on President Tinubu's administration's calendar, today is August the 5th, Tuesday 2023, and it marks exactly 100 days of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in office as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is why this week we have begun robust conversations around President Tinubu's first 100 days in office. What are the critical issues on the front burner? Now, this makes it 3 months and exactly 3 days in office as Commander-in-Chief. Yeah, on behalf of all my members here, I would like to congratulate him on his first 100 days, though the PEPT cases are still pending. Now, President Tinubu departs for India at midnight. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has departed Abuja to attend the G20 Leaders Summit in New Delhi, India, on the special invitation of the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. Now, the president took off from the presidential wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport at about midnight. And well, we expected to be back after the summit ends. We understand that he was accompanied by key ministers, including the coordinating minister of Budget and Planning in his cabinet. And the major objective for the travel is to explore all necessary opportunities for business and economic growth of Nigeria in partnership with the G20, and then also wants to measure all the necessary parameters to see whether it can be a full member, Nigeria can be a full member of the G20 in India. We hope, we wish them very good luck as he has departed by midnight. So while that is happening, or while that happened, we also have another development, which is NLC shuns meeting with federal government and begins 2 days warning strike. Now, the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, begins a 2-day warning strike today after shunning a meeting with the federal government over increasing hardship and suffering across the country caused by the removal of fuel subsidy. This came as the Minister of Labour and Employment, Simon Lalong, yesterday warned that the strike will worsen the plight of ordinary Nigerians and urged NLC to shelve the action. The NLC had on Friday given notice of a 2-day warning strike to protest the excruciating mass suffering and impoverishment experienced around the country. Total and indefinite shutdown of the economy within 14 working days or 21 days after the warning strike, if government did not take steps to address the hardships experienced across the country. Now, while briefing on Friday after its NEC meeting, the NLC president, Joe Ajero, said the National Executive Committee in session of NLC resolved to embark on a total and indefinite shutdown of the nation within 14 working days or 21 days from that day until steps are taken by the government to address the excruciating mass suffering and the impoverishment experienced around the country. So, why did NLC shun meeting with FG? Let's find out. Though sources in the NLC leadership told media that the strike will go ahead despite yesterday's scheduled meeting with the Minister of Labour and Employment, Simon Lalong, it was gathered that a media briefing by the minister allegedly castigating Labour leaders ahead of the meeting forced NLC leaders to shun the meeting that would have been held at the Federal Ministry of Labour and Employment at the Federal Secretariat. Now, the minister was said to have threatened the NLC leaders at his briefing for chance that NLC would honor the meeting. One of the visibly angry NLC leaders told media that the minister alleged outburst a few hours before the scheduled meeting put the final nail to NLC's resolve to proceed with the strike, as resolved by the members of its National Executive Council NEC last Friday. Now, NLC leaders said, "You do not expect us to attend a meeting when we've been warned of a possible arrest. In fact, we thank the minister for putting us on notice of their plan, so the right thing to do is to keep away from such meetings and avoid any possible arrest." He continues, and I quote, "What the minister had done was nothing short of industrial dictatorship and naked blackmail. The federal government had already taken decisions on the proposed meeting. The minister was kind enough to hold a briefing ahead of the meeting to disclose part of government's decision. Well, like I said earlier, the strike goes ahead as planned. After Wednesday, we will determine what next steps to follow. The next communique was loud enough. We cannot continue as if we are living in a different country from our political leaders and their cronies." Expectedly, the federal government said it waited for the NLC to attend a negotiation meeting at the Ministry of Labour and Employment headquarters, but the Congress refused to attend. Labour and Employment Minister Lalong disclosed this at the meeting attended by the delegation of the Trade Union Congress TUC of Nigeria. The minister also said that the ministry was yet to receive any formal communication from the NLC on the proposed 2-day warning strike. Now, he said the strike notice came when he was receiving briefing from the various departments in the ministry, adding that he had to suspend the briefings to convene the meeting with the NLC because of the urgency of the issue at hand. Now, because of the urgency of that strike notice, we quickly summoned a meeting, I'm quoting him, NLC, and I must apologize that your own meeting came this morning and all of you attended, because in the course of some of the issues that were raised, we needed to sort them out, and we believe that it was within our capacity to see if we can sort out some of these problems even today. So the purpose of this meeting, like I said, is to quickly address those issues that were raised and see the possibility of averting this strike action that is scheduled to be embarked upon Tuesday, which is today. Although I'm sure up to today we have not received any communication of any strike from the NLC, the minister added. Now, earlier, the federal government had appealed to NLC to call off the planned strike, saying it will worsen the plight of the Nigerians. Briefing journalist Lalong pleaded with NLC leadership to allow all stakeholders to work towards amicable resolution of contending issues on ground. Judiciary workers also to shut down courts. And that's the part that is a little bit intriguing. Now, also, the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, JUSUN, has ordered its members to shut down all courts in the country on Tuesday and Wednesday. The association said the action was in line with the decision of the NLC and TUC to embark on a 2-day warning strike over economic hardships that Nigerians are currently facing owing to the unplanned removal of fuel subsidy by the federal government. JUSUN, in a memo by its National Secretary, L.M. Adetola, directed all Deputy President, Zonal Vice Presidents, Chairman and Secretary of all its branches and chapters to ensure total lockdown of all the courts as ordered from Tuesday and Wednesday against the removal of subsidy without a palliative to cushion the effect of hardship resulting from the program. To this end, you are advised to commence mobilization of your members in both the branches and chapters of your great union for the proposed action. The labor union equally threatened to embark on an indefinite nationwide strike within 14 days or 21 days from when the communique was issued, unless federal government addressed the excruciating suffering of Nigerians. Now, the Presidential Election Petition Court, PEPC, which is sitting at the Abuja division of the Court of Appeal, had fixed Wednesday to deliver judgment on 3 petitions that are seeking to remove President Bola Ahmed Tinubu from office. Meanwhile, the court has directed all its staff members to stay at home on Judgment Day. Serious times ahead, I must really tell you. Now, still on the issues regarding the strike, you see a lot of the arms, labor arms coming up. We also have banks move to join the NLC strike from Tuesday. Now, through the National Union of Banks, Insurance and Financial Institutions Employees, NUBI, FIE, Nigerian banks have decided to join the Nigeria Labour Congress NLC on the two-day planned strike action. This was disclosed in a statement signed by Mohammed I. Sheikh, General Secretary of the Union, which said all banks will shut down from Tuesday the 5th and Wednesday, September the 6th, 2023. However, the federal government on Monday pleaded with the NLC to call off its two-day warning strike, which is to commence today. The government said the reason for calling for suspending the strike action was to forestall a breakdown of peace, which is said will hurt. It will hurt against that already made NECA or FG states respects ILO conventions on workers' employees' rights. The Nigerian Employee Consultative Association NECA has called on the federal and state governments to respect the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution and International Labour Organization's ILO 087 Convention, which guaranteed the freedom of association and the rights to organize for workers and employers alike. This call was made in a letter addressed to the Minister of Labour and Employment, Simon Lalong, by the Director General of NECA, Mr. Adewale Smart Oyeride, which was titled Need for Government to Respect ILO Conventions 087, Freedom of Association and Protection of the Rights to Organize, as at 1948. Now, the letter, which was dated September 4th, 2023, and copied to the NLC and TUC, stated that the government continued disrespect of these provisions would mark a dangerous trend for Nigerians' industrial relations and its position in the international labor community, where it is the current chairman of the ILO's governing body. Now, NECA said it is worrisome that government, both at the federal and state levels, will violate the provisions of Conventions 87 of the International Labour Organization, which guarantees the freedom of association and protection of the rights to organize for workers and employers. This is equally guaranteed and enshrined in our laws, that is, Section 40 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Now, the NECA noted that while it might have some ideological differences with the organized labor, it, however, aligned absolutely on the need for government at all levels to respect the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the said ILO's convention, which has been ratified by Nigeria, in order to maintain a peaceful industrial harmony in the country. Now, he added that NECA affirms most respectably that the articles of Convention 87, especially Articles 1, 2, 3, and 4, among others, explicitly guarantees the right of workers and employers to exercise the rights without interference from government. The Employers Association has told Lalong that it was counting on his experience and goodwill to address this anomaly that could plunge the nation into ridicule at the international community, cause disruption in our industrial relations practice, amongst others. Now, we will begin our major conversations again with Tinubu's 100 days in office, and then we came across a report, giving some kind of credit to President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. 4 times Tinubu has yielded to public pressure. They say since the return of democracy in 1999, Nigeria has had 5 presidents. Each of the past 4 presidents led the country in the way they deemed fit, some not deferring to public pressure. In other words, while the people had their say, the presidents had their way. For instance, one of the issues critics raised with ex-President Muhammad Buhari was that he stands on going ahead with several issues despite opposition from different quarters. Now, in the 100 days of incumbent and the 5th president, Bola Tinubu, there seems to be a slight difference in this regard. There are highlights of 5 instances when Tinubu made U-turns after public outcry. Now, the first one is exclusion of the Niger Delta Ministry. There were strong indications that the Niger Delta Affairs Ministry had been scrapped, as no minister was deployed to the ministry in the portfolios released ahead of the inauguration of the cabinet members. Media had reported how Tinubu allotted portfolios to 45 minister designates screened and confirmed by the Senate. However, no minister designate was assigned to Niger Delta Affairs, which was created by the former President Umar Musa Yar'Adua in September 2008. Now, reaching the board of trustees BOT of the Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, they warned President Tinubu against scrapping the ministry. The forum said since the ministry was created, successive administrations of President Goodluck Jonathan and Muhammad Buhari had sustained it. The forum asked Tinubu to nominate a minister for Niger Delta Affairs, threatening that scrapping the ministry would be met with adverse consequences. Following the outcry over the omission of the ministry in the recently published ministries and their respective ministers, the president approved the redeployment of Engineer Abubakar Momo from the Federal Ministry of Youth to the Federal Ministry of the Niger Delta Development. Now, the president also made a minor amendment to the ministry's nomenclature from Niger Delta Affairs to Niger Delta Development. The second one is about the issues around the nomination and substitution of Mariam Shetty. Now, Mariam Shetty's name appeared among the 19 ministerial nominees forwarded to the Senate after the screening of the first batch of 28 nominees that had commenced. Now, her nomination elicited mixed reaction on social media. While some questioned her experience, others called her, in quotes, a TikTok influencer. 2 days after her nomination, she was replaced with Hajia Maria Mahmoud, former Commissioner of Higher Education in Kano, in the administration of Abdullahi Ganduje. Now, many had said Ganduje influenced her removal, but the national chairman of the APC admitted that the social media played a role in the saga. Now, Ganduje said, and I quote, "People questioned her integrity and experience, with many of them doubting her credentials to represent Kano at the national level. There were growing disaffections. The disaffection is not from Ganduje, but the people of Kano." President Bola Tinubu's attention was drawn to the torrents of criticisms greeting Shetty's nomination. The president asked whether I had nominated Mariam Shetty. I said no. He asked how then her name appeared on the list. I told him I had no idea whatsoever. Now, the third one now is a nationwide broadcast on economic hardship. Now, the removal of subsidy on premium motor spirits, otherwise known as petrol, tripled prompt price, resulting in widespread hardship. Anger was rife as some supporters of Tinubu expressed regrets voting him. Now, presidential spokesperson deployed different strategies to calm Nigerians, but lamentations poured in. The government was accused of losing touch with reality and deliberately worsening the plight of the masses. Amid the tension, the presidency announced that President Tinubu would address the nation. Now, during the broadcast aired on television, radio stations, and other electronic media outlets, Tinubu said he was aware of the hardship Nigerians were facing due to the various policy decisions of his administration. Now, he said, and I quote, "Our economy is going through a tough patch and you are being hurt by it. The cost of fuel has gone up, food and other prices have followed it. Households and businesses struggle," Tinubu had said. "Things seem anxious and uncertain. I understand the hardship you face. I wish there were other ways, but there is none. If there were, I would have taken the route as I came here to help, not hurt people and nation that I love." He noted that the government was working on reducing the burden to make life easier for Nigerians, although some persons dismissed the address, saying it could not put food on their tables, and some also disagreed with some of the plans reeled out by the president. Majority agreed that empathy at such a critical period was a good step in the right direction. Now, the fourth particular issue on policy action that Tinubu had reversed based on public pressure is replacement of the NDDC nominees. Now, President Tinubu last Friday approved the immediate replacement of Ondo representative at the Niger Delta Development Commission board, Mr. Victor Akinjo, and that of Cross River State representative Mr. Asioku Okang. After Chief Ajiri Ingilale, presidential spokesman announced the appointment of new board members of the commission, protests then erupted in these two states. Now, arguing that it would demoralize members of the ruling party in the state, Adetimehin said, "We have no doubt in this circumstance that Mr. President will revisit the nomination of Akinjo as the Ondo State rep on the NDDC's governing board and bring on board someone known to have worked for the party." Now, in Cross River, protesters hit the streets saying they will not accept a PDP member taking a position that should have ordinarily gone to an APC member. Now, Governor Basi Otu in Calabar, Cross River, had assured them that the president will act on their complaints. 3 days later, Tinubu announced changes of the nominees from both states, another sign that he has bowed to reasoning and public pressure. All right, we'll take a short break. Thereafter, we'll take the main object of the day, and then we will be introducing our guest who is going to be joining us virtually from Abuja. This is Political Spectrum on Spectrum Television. Join us again. We'll be right back.
Tani wa mo ko wa nu ko pe.
Inú ìjọ pé ìgbélé wa tó ń wà nínú ìjọ kan máa lọ.
Baba wa ka.
All right, many thanks for staying tuned. And if you're just tuned in, it's Political Spectrum on Spectrum Television. And our major discussion today will be assessing, analyzing, evaluating, and bantering over the do's, the don'ts, the actions, inactions, neutrality, policies, and executive decisions of the president. It's no longer news that the Tinubu administration arguably has been topmost at the front burner of major national discussions by its citizens. Even the supporters of the presidency are unable to present a coherent narrative as to the current situations of things under his 100 days watch. At least that is how a lot of people feel. It's not our opinion. Now, leading a nation as complex and as diverse as the Nigerian state means first designing a comprehensive engagement strategy. Then it follows, secondly, with thinking through the appropriate policies for dealing with various problems. It also means finding and deploying the right type of human capital for implementation. Now, the criteria here must include competence and sensitivity to existing subsisting socio-political realities. Now, two paradigms on which Buhari performed disastrously and delivered miserably, as argued by different pundits and analysts. It must be said and noted that the painful, lethargic, and purposeless 8 years tenure of the former President Muhammadu Buhari has helped to project the actions of the current president as nothing short of the eighth wonder of the world. A lot of critics have argued. Now, describing Buhari's tenure by a lot of pundits, Buhari's tenure is likely to go down in history as a period of the greatest spiritual and material damage to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. People have argued. The North in particular will take decades to get out of its present bind, the loss of lives, property, and means of livelihood, the spate of banditry and general insecurity, and the cheerful waste of human capital in all ill-informed insistence on trekking thousands of kilometers to feed cattle will yet rebound. Now, the damage done by Buhari to APC, national cohesion, service delivery, leadership sensitivity, equity, natural justice, genuine democracy in a plural society, and the idea of leadership and responsibility, self-presentation as leader is completely immeasurable. Now, practically everything that spoke to a better and greater humanity suffered shipwreck under Buhari. Some have also argued. Now, that this part is partly why what is going on at the moment looks or seems a bit dizzying for most Nigerians who lived for 8 years with a president who did nothing, knew nothing, and was bothered about nothing. Tinubu took over from a man who was not on the job at all, people have argued. Now, the federal government's current decisions, actions, and policy initiatives are foundational measures on which it is expected to build. Now, they will make or mar Tinubu's tenure. That is why their intent and purpose should be simplified in the public domain, with teachers, ASU, doctors, and sundry labor unions on the warpath with government amidst unprecedented rise in transportation and foodstuff for citizens. Now, it took Tinubu's predecessor 6 months to appoint ministers. It took him practically 1 year to dissolve the governing boards of MDAs and more years to reconstitute them. He retained most government functionaries for 8 years, thereby forcing many career officers to either stagnate or retire without deserved fulfillment. That is why the apparent ease and speed with which important decisions and appointments are now being made, as well as the excitement of those who kept telling us that Tinubu would hit the ground running once sworn in, is understandable. Tinubu is from the same party as his predecessor, Muhammadu Buhari. And Muhammadu Buhari was dubbed Baba Go Slow for his slow pace. It took 6 months to appoint cabinet members. By contrast, Tinubu, without fanfare, announced petrol subsidy is gone at Eagle Square after taking office on May 29th and suspended the controversial central bank governor Godwin Emefiele some 10 days later the Central Bank of Nigeria has faced criticisms for going to sleep after taking the critical first step towards fixing its broken FX market, after it allowed demand and supply to determine the exchange rate again after years of pegging it. Now, he stressed the need to mop up excess naira liquidity to stabilize the country. Concerning Tinubu's ministerial list, analysts who spoke to media after the list was released said it was full of recycled politicians who might help him in the event of a rerun, expressing doubts that this set of ministers will take Nigeria to greater heights in the Tinubu era. Now, the criticisms continue. Politicians dominate his cabinet, including ex-governors and serving and former Senate House of Representative members. This development has made analysts question their ability to deliver. Now, let's hear from Shehu Sani. Shehu Sani, a former lawmaker and president of the Civil Rights Congress of Nigeria, said, and I quote, "The president has embraced some serpents with a known history of treachery and rewarded some vultures for playing the Judas." End of quote. All right, at this point, I'd like to bring in Mr. Jide Ojo. Mr. Jide Ojo is a development consultant, is a public policy expert, and a public affairs analyst. Mr. Jide, good morning to you. How are you doing? Good morning.
Good morning, Shegun. It's a pleasure.
I greet you, sir. Very well, sir. I like your hat, sir.
My pleasure.
I like it. How is Abuja this morning, sir?
One Nigeria. Abuja is calm.
Okay.
It's calm and cool.
Okay. You are now
waiting for the court of appeal tomorrow.
Exactly. But you've heard from the updates that because of the strike, the judicial union has joined the strike, and that there probably may not be a judgment tomorrow. But that's not the first question I'm going to ask you. The first question I'm going to ask you is, ideally, as global best practice, a lot of nations at this point observing their president's 100 days in office would have some kind of fanfare or some kind of symposia or some kind of seminar in Abuja celebrating the first 100 days, whether it be difficult or it be easy. Is there anything of that sort going on in Abuja?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. This is a time for sober reflection, given the fact that, as we say in local parlance, the street is not laughing. There's no smile on people's faces. It will be out of place for you to now roll out the drums. What will be celebrated as being the major achievement of Tinubu in 100 days? I am yet to see that. Of course, it's like a train leaving the train station. You know how locomotives move.
Yeah.
They move very slowly, and over time they gather speed, and then will be very fast. Of course, the president didn't live up to his promise of hitting the ground running. That even uh, to put together a cabinet, it took him 58 days. And even at that, he was partially in compliance with the provision of the Constitution, which says that the nomination should be within 60 days. So he has to make about 2-3 tranches of nominations. And of course, it will seem like even at that, it was flip-flopping. Today, removing somebody is replacing someone else. Is also changing people's